Hello, my name is Gage Marchand. Welcome to my architecture career project. Today, I'm going to be going over what I know. I'm going to go over a lot of research that I did. A lot of things were asked, and I needed to find out, what it pays, required education, what kind of schools offer that education. I'm going to go over what I learned. I'm also going to go over what comes next, like what I do now that I know that it's what I want to do. Uh, why I chose architecture. It's actually a really cool story. It has to do with my dad, because my dad does this kind of thing, but we're going to get into that later. So let's hop right into it. To start with what I know that as an architect, I primarily am going to be working at a desk with my computer. Architects, they used to draw with it was a big wooden slab almost, and they would draw, and they had these really huge pieces of paper, and they would draw. But nowadays, with computers and stuff, it's all online. It's all on a computer. You've got your keys, you have shortcuts and hotkeys, and that's the kind of stuff that I would learn in college in that program. Um, I know that architects often meet with the homeowner to discuss details about the house. Maybe they don't like this wall, maybe they want their closet to be a bit bigger, a little deeper. Maybe they don't like the location of the toilet in this set house plan. It can be anything. That's why the architect or even the draftsman will meet with the homeowner. I know that I won't be working exclusively by myself. I know that an architecture firm primarily has 3 to 5 different architects, depending on the size of the firm itself. Um, and the plans will go to the draftsman or to the architects themselves, but everything ultimately goes through the architects to get it signed, to get it sealed, to make sure that it is good, and then it goes to the builders. Um, Speaking a little bit on that, an architect doesn't always have to draw the plans themselves. An architect is more than able to, however, they can very easily give this set of plans to a draftsman who just draws. Their job is to just draw the plan. They may sometimes go out and meet with the homeowner and say, hey, this is what I want, da 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 da. And then they draw the plan, and then they have to send it back to the architect, and they will overlook it. They look at it and they say, oh, that's good, everything meets codes and all this stuff. Then they sign it, and then it goes to the builders. House gets built. And I do know that architects must be licensed by the state in which they live. It's not that hard to get licensed in different kind of states. All right, so let's keep going. When someone is going to be an architect, they're technically going into an engineering field. There's not an architectural degree. There are different types of engineering degrees that you can then go and get licensed as an architect. Like, for example, you can go get a structural engineering degree or architectural engineering degree. That's a bit more specified. You can pick different things. You may not want to be the actual architect, and you don't have to be. If you just want to draw, you can very easily go to school and become a draftsman. That's actually what my dad does. My dad is a draftsman. He's not an architect. So all the plans that a draftsman draws has to go through an architect. An architect has to look at them and has to sign them and seal them. To seal them, he's got a stamp that the state gives him. He then presses down and it stamps it like this is good. They have been looked at. And then they go off to the building companies, and then the house gets built. To become a licensed architect, you have to go to college for 4 years for a bachelor's degree in, as I kind of talked about earlier, an engineering field. There's a couple different engineering fields that you can go to. One is structural, another one's architectural. It's pretty loose. It's pretty vague. You don't have to have one specific field that you go into. And I know that to become licensed, you have to work under an architect that has already been licensed as an apprentice for, I believe, 6 months minimum. And then you can take your state test to get licensed. And then once you get licensed, you are an architect. And then you can go right back to that firm that you did your internship almost at. You can get a job there, go to a different firm, start your own thing. At that point, it's up to you. At that point, the door is wide open. I know that there are many different schools that offer degrees in engineering. UCF, for example, go Knights, is one of the leaders in this field, and it's actually where I intend to go after my 2-year degree, because the college I go to now, like Sumter, they have a good connection with UCF, and there's a direct connect, direct transfer, that kind of thing. That's where I plan to go. It fits my goals almost perfectly, actually. It has very high income potential. My dad, for example, is just a draftsman, makes six figures. He does very well for himself. So architects are almost always going to be in the $100,000 a year range, and potential to go much higher if you do your own thing. You can start your own firm. You could work independently as your own architect. You can do custom houses, like completely from the ground up. A lot of artists, big businessmen, the millionaires, a lot of those people actually will get private architects who design the house very specifically. The house costs a lot of money, but the architect also makes a lot of money. So depending on which way you want to go, if you want to work for a firm or by yourself as your own independent architect, you could make millions if you decide to go overseas and such. The job fits my personality actually really nicely. I am technically I am primarily more introverted than extroverted, uh, but you'll also get a lot of one-on-one time with the homeowner if you're the one going to the meeting. Um, I like to think I'm kind of creative when it comes to designing stuff. Um, so I get to do that. I get to sit by myself in my thing. I'm in my own space, and I get to create something that I'm super proud of, and I also get to show that off. And in a year or so, a couple years, when the house is ultimately built, I have something that I can show people. Hey, I designed that. I designed that house. Um, this job can very easily make a good living. Like I said earlier, my dad is just a draftsman, went to a trade school and makes six figures. Many architects who have been doing it a couple years easily make six figures. You can do just fine as an architect. You don't often hear about a broke architect. And there is a bit of advancement opportunity. Most firms do have a head architect who oversees all of the ongoings and the procedures in the firm. Um, they look over everything, they oversee it, they kind of make sure everything's going smoothly. Well, what I discovered in my research, I discovered in this that there are actually a lot of schools that you can go to, that someone can go to. I learned that it's kind of vague. It's kind of vague as to what degree you need because there's a couple that work. So it's really, you have to pick and choose which one you want, whether you want it to be structural, architectural. There's a couple more, but as long as it's an engineering degree, you can go and get licensed. I learned that you also have to work under an architect as an apprentice. Did not know that. Did not know that at all. I thought you just got your degree, took a test, and you were good. No, you actually have to work. I think it's for at least 6 months underneath an architect for a firm, and they have to review you. They have to give you evaluations and stuff. There are certain procedures and legal stuff that goes into that. Um, I also learned that there are firms with head architects. Didn't know that. I don't know if that's a niche thing or if all firms have this. I do know that some do, though. Some do have head architects who do get looked at by the CEO of the firm, the person who created it, and say, hey, I like you. You make the best plans. You have the best customer ratings. So I want you to go up. You're going to be the head architect. You're going to oversee all of the operations. Well, what comes next? Now that I know all of this, what do I do right now? Right now, I'm on track. I'm doing good. I'm a little behind where I should be technically. However, I'm still going the right direction. I know this is what I want to do. I know that I can make a really good living doing it. But for now, I'm just going to continue to work on my 2-year degree and then work to transferring to university to get my degree in engineering. And then it's off to a firm to work as an apprentice for however long it takes. Get that stamp and then hopefully start my own firm because that's where the big bucks come in. Why I chose architecture? Uh, well, as I've kind of mentioned a couple times earlier in this project, my dad is a draftsman. He's been doing this for 30, over 30 years, and as a draftsman, he works for himself. At one point, he worked in a firm, and he worked for architects, and he worked underneath them, and he would get plans, just draw the plans, and send them off, and that didn't work for him. So he eventually opened his own practice and did his own thing. He went to a trade school. He got his license to draw houses that needed to be signed. And one day, actually, I think about a year and a half ago, about this time, he called me out of my room. He said, "Hey Gage, come here, come watch this." He then worked for about 6 minutes. It was a little rough, roughly 6 minutes. Him and I chatted a little bit as to what he was doing, and After that 6 minutes, he turned around to me and said, "What I just did is worth $4,000. He added on, he added in a closet in some rich guy's house. He wanted an extra closet in his bedroom. So he just click, 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 click for about 6 minutes, got some dimensions right, and measured and some stuff and everything. $4,000 is what he got paid for 6 minutes of work. I was sold right there. I said this is what I want to do. This is perfect. I know that he can live a life that he wants to live. He's not working his tail off all the time, but I know that you have to get there. You don't just get that right out the gate. I know that this is something that you got to work for. And that's why I chose architecture. That's why that I'm going to college now for this 2-year degree so that I can go be an engineer and then an architect. So that's why I chose it. If you have any questions, this is going to be a YouTube video. You can just leave them in the comments section, or you can message me on Canvas if you know my name. Again, my name is Gage Marchand. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this. Have a good one.